Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your October 2019 Astrology 33 reading. Thank you to those of you who've liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. And just to let you guys know, I actually will be starting personal readings up again starting in October. So for those of you who watch this as soon as I post it, we're still a couple ways a week from that. But yeah, basically once the calendar hits October, I will be starting up the personal readings again, so if you like one of those, just check out the description of the video for more info on that. Alright, with that out of the way, we have a Celtic cross spread in front of us as always. Got some extra cards that came out there. We also have two different oracle cards to take a look at and a mudra card as well. Okay, so let's get started with the main spread. In the main situation position, we have the Empress card. So this is normally a card that points to Taurus energy, but also possibly Libra, since we do see the Venus symbol there. But, so on the one hand, this can just be pointing to the fact that we'll have a lot of energy in Libra as October starts, but could be something more than that. And for some of you, I'm actually picking up on that some of you may be pregnant. And for those of you, if that's the case, I'm actually picking up on specifically 3 months. And the reason I say that is we have the 3 there in the card, and then we have the 6 here. So, that would be the full term of pregnancy if we had those two together, right? But I'll get back to that particular part in a bit. So that's the way I'm feeling that it might be playing out for some of you. There can be a pregnancy. So that would have been, maybe you would have conceived, depending on when you're watching this, either the time of Gemini or Cancer, basically. And for others of you, this can just represent actually some elevation in your career status. But if that's the case, I have a feeling that some more of you might be leaving one job for another. So to get into why I'm feeling those energies, and the challenger obstacle position, we have the 6 of Swords. So going back to the pregnancy vibe that I was getting, that's why I was saying possibly you might find out, that you're 3 months pregnant, because with this coming up in the challenger obstacle position, this could just be saying that now the challenge would be for you to say, okay, well, I really need to take it easy over the next 6 months, right? This usually represents moving the calmer waters. And for some of you, that might be a challenge because let's say in your career, you're at this level, this Empress level, right? So you could be very career oriented and have quite a bit of success in your career. So that's why you might feel, okay, it's going to be a challenge for me to not be like that, right, as I'm trying to make it through the rest of the term of this pregnancy, right? And then for those of you who feel this resonates more on a job vibe, like I was saying, this can just say that, you might have gotten an offer that actually would be financially beneficial to you. The challenger obstacle is going to be, trying to get away from it. Interesting I said it that way, but what I was going to say is getting out of the one job you're in now for the other one. So that's why I feel like for some of you, you might even just be considering just leaving without even necessarily putting in a formal 2-week notice. And what makes me think it could be related to jobs for some of you too, as far as moving from one to another, is if we look at the direction the boat is aimed at, they're aimed right at that Ace of Pentacles, which would be in the present position. So that's what makes me feel that, for some of you, it's like, okay, could be leaving one job for another. And that wouldn't surprise me, actually, because there's been a lot of energy moving through your 10th house of Virgo. So, and that's your career and social status house. So that might have been what spurred all this energy on. All right. In the foundation position, we have the Tower. So for me, that could play out a couple ways there. For one, for example, if it goes back to that pregnancy theme that we mentioned, I feel for a lot of you this is a surprise. You weren't expecting the pregnancy necessarily. And similar thing if it's a job thing, like I said, I feel like there's not a lot of formality around you leaving the one job for the other. So what I mean by that is, it could have been an offer that came in suddenly that maybe you didn't think you were going to get. So maybe, for example, you applied for it a while back and you figured, okay, it's been so long since I applied, they probably weren't interested, and maybe they do come back in with communication, and now, such a good offer that you might have to just jump on the opportunity, right? You might not have time to put in a formal 2 week notice. You might have to say, okay, well, I need to get out of here. And you might be, just trying to slink away without causing too much of a ripple with the current job that you're in. And why I think that could be the case too is on the bottom of the deck we have the Nine of Pentacles. So to me, that does say that, chances are you guys probably had some kind of career success, even where you're at currently. But it could just be, okay, the Nine of Pentacles, some people say that's like the minor arcana version of the Empress, right? So you could be realizing, okay, yeah, I'm here right now, but I can get to this level if I take this new offer that's on the table. But, it could be a challenge to leave the current job behind. Maybe, maybe it's because you actually do appreciate the people you work with. Maybe they've been a good, supportive work environment for you, but it's just that the offer came up so rapidly that you don't really have the time to take 2 weeks, for example, and, put in a formal notice and everything. And maybe you realize that, maybe you're at a high status at that job too. So you're realizing that leaving them with such short notice, they're not really going to have anyone to fill in that position the way they would need to. So you realize that in a way, you could be hindering them, but at the same time, like I said, you feel like your hands are tied. Like, okay, this is too good of an offer for me to pass up, right? And yeah, like I said, if going back to that pregnancy vibe once again too, I just feel like for most of you, this would be an unexpected pregnancy. So, and maybe even because it could be someone that you were with at the time and maybe you're not with them now. That's one way that could be playing out. Or again, like I said, it's just an unexpected pregnancy, that even if you are with the person, you guys just weren't planning on that. So that could be pretty big news to receive, right? In the past position, we have the Nine of Swords. So this represents losing a lot of sleep, having anxiety, just really worried. And that could be for either scenario. Like I said, if it's the job situation that we mentioned already, that it could be saying, okay, you're just really, really been losing a lot of sleep over, okay, do I take the offer? On the one hand, you're like, it's too good to pass up. On the other hand, like I said, there might be some guilt associated with it because you understand that it would really leave your current job at a loss if you did leave. And like I said, maybe originally, when you applied, you might have been able to give them the proper notice and maybe even help train the person that was going to replace you eventually. But now you're not really going to have all the time for that. So that could be where there's a little bit of anxiety around it, And then with the pregnancy thing, same thing. Like I said, if it's an unexpected pregnancy that you guys are dealing with, that could be where you're at with it mentally, just losing a lot of sleep. Like, okay, what am I going to do, right? Like I said, especially if you're pretty career focused too. So it could be such a life change, a life changing thing for you where you're like, okay, well, now I can't just go with my career all the time. Now I have to try to figure out how I'm going to incorporate parenthood into the mix as well, so that could be what was going on there. In the present position, we have the Ace of Pentacles. So once again, like I said, this can be an offer that came through to you for a new job. And maybe that's why you're having to leave the old one behind, and maybe quite suddenly. Others view with the pregnancy thing, it can be maybe you're figuring out a way. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be dealing with now. All right, how can I make sure that finances is still going to be good for me, right? So maybe you figure out a way where you could balance the two. Yeah, that's pretty much all I'm getting there. Or maybe even, if you hadn't let the other person know yet, like I said, if it's someone who, maybe you're not with currently and you let them know the situation, maybe this is them discussing with you, okay, well, how are we going to handle this financially, Okay, maybe it's, in that regard, it's friendly, quote unquote, like, all right, well, let me know what you need, right? There could be some discussion around that kind of stuff. In the near future position, we have the Page of Swords. So this represents communication. What I do say with the page energies is there's that one foot in, one foot out vibe, and it really stands out the most with the Page of Swords in particular if we look at their stance. And then if we look at the way that they're holding the sword, they don't seem to have much confidence, right? And the thought process there is, this is someone who hasn't got to the level of knight yet, or a queen or a king, they're new to this. So this can be you, maybe reluctantly deciding to tell people about the pregnancy, right? Like I said, for some of you, I feel like this is something that maybe that's the main thing that you've been racking your brain about. Like, do I even want to tell people that I'm pregnant? So, that could be you coming forward and communicating to these people, whether it be your friend group or your job, right? Where maybe it's even that, where you're like, okay, so I'm going to be on maternity leave, right? So I'm going to have to, train someone else to fill in for me in the meantime, right? It could be centered around that as well. Or if you're just leaving a job in general, right? Just let them know, hey, sorry guys, I have a new job, right? I, unfortunately won't be able to, help train the next person because the offer popped up rather suddenly, right? And I have to jump on the opportunity. So that could be where the reluctance is there because there's, like I said, there could be some guilt around that for you, but at the same time, you realize, okay, well, I have to do it. Um, that's pretty much all I'm getting there. In the position of your influence on the situation, we have the High Priestess and the Lovers. So, High Priestess, usually for me, is a Pisces energy. So, for you, that's your fourth house of home, family. And then this card represents Gemini, which is your opposite sign, which represents romantic relationships, but also partnerships, sometimes including business partnerships. So, on the one hand, this could represent you being secretive about a partnership that you're entering into, right? Like I said, and maybe some of you might even find a way to say, okay, well, maybe I can kind of start this new job while still holding on to the other. So that's where the Lover's energy would come in, as far as saying, you might be able to work both at the same time for the time being. Or for those of you who do find that you're pregnant, maybe you figure out a way to have a secondary source of income to help you build your money up until the pregnancy, right? So you're like, all right, I got to really start saving up my resources. But I feel like there's some secrecy behind that as well. And this can just be you following your intuition around these decisions as well. I always say that, to me, if you look at the woman, it looks like her foot is on the moon there, right? So to me, that represents your emotions being present. You're very well aware of them, but at the same time, you're firmly in control of them as well. For some of you, this can be, again, going back to, like I said, for some of you, especially if you're watching this now, when I'm first posting it, as opposed to in October, this can just be pointing to the fact that this could have been the pregnancy thing where you conceived during the time of Gemini. And some of you could be dealing with the Gemini, maybe deciding, do you want to let them know, that you are pregnant? Because, like I said, maybe for some of you, you might have already split up with the person. All right, in the position of the environment, we have the Five of Cups. So this is interesting because this actually represents the first 10 degrees of Scorpio. So if we're looking at that as a timeline, this can just be saying that maybe towards the end of October is when you officially let these people know, whether it's a job. Like I said, you might let the current job know, hey, actually, I'm leaving this one behind because I got a new offer, right? And there could be some disappointment, primarily for them more than you, I feel. Like I said, I do feel like this would be an opportunity you're excited about if it's a new career thing, but there would definitely be some guilt, which does show me that, you guys probably were close with the people you worked with, and you are appreciative of where they got you to this point. But like I said, this new offer just might have been too good to pass up. And then for others of you, if this is the person, that you are going to be having a child with, one thing that started to come to me with the Five of Cups energy recently was thinking about how the Three of Cups vibe is very much like a celebratory type party atmosphere. And then the Two of Cups is more about that stable one-to-one connection, right? So this can be them coming to the realization that, okay, well, if we're going to be parents now, I, kind of have to let go of that partying lifestyle, right? So That could be how some of them are looking at the situation, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the vibe that I pick up on with this card. And just, obviously there's positivity behind them. And the Five of Swords is, Five of Cups, rather, excuse me, is neutral energy too, as far as, to me, that's what the gray represents. It's like you have a choice. You could focus on the three spilled cups, or you could focus on the two that are there as well. So there's that, neutrality of the energy, but obviously we could see it, at least at this particular point, they'd be focused on more of the negative downsides where there's definite positive upsides as well. That it might just take them a while to get warmed up to. All right. In the hopes or fears position, we have the Eight of Pentacles. So, for some of you, maybe this is even something that you've been trying to get off the ground for yourselves, as far as, maybe starting your own business, and maybe all of a sudden you got the funding for it. Or maybe you have had the business out there for a while, quote unquote, but maybe all of a sudden now you start getting a bunch of clients coming in that you weren't having before, to the point where you're like, okay, well, now I might be able to just drop my day job, quote unquote, and just, work for myself, because maybe that's how many orders you've started to get recently, right? Or how many requests, whatever the case may be. So, because when I look at this energy, it's, to me, obviously quite literally, working on making your own money. So that's what I'm feeling there. And that could be a hope of yours too, like I said, where you're realizing, okay, well, now I'm going to be having a child, so you might be looking into secondary sources of income as well. And then a fear for some of you where you really are high up in your career, and now you're realizing, okay, well, now I'm not going to be able to put as much energy, time, and focus into my career because of the pregnancy. Then that could be more of a fear where you're like, okay, well, now I'm not going to be able to work on making my own money, And also, you could view that as, you might view it as a loss too. Oh, well, now that I'm not going to be able to work as much, I'm going to go down from the Nine of Pentacles to the Eight of Pentacles, right? So you just might view it as a bit of a loss. And again, so this could even be your energy, right? Where you're looking at this as a loss currently, because you're like, okay, well, now I'm not going to be able to put in as much work into my career as I normally would. And I do feel that that won't last too long. Like I said, it might even just be more of a thing that lasts around that last week of October, and then maybe by the time of November it'll pass by then. All right, in the outcome position, we have the Knight of Swords, the Ace of Swords, and the Seven of Pentacles. So interesting energies here to have together. This is actually the court card for Gemini, so once again we do see Gemini vibes. Now, given that we saw the Gemini Major Arcana for your position, this can represent you for a lot of you. And maybe this is you finally deciding to rush in and make that communication, and maybe more bold and more confidently than we see here with the Page of Swords, right? Communicating the truth, right, with the Ace of Swords. And then with the Seven of Pentacles, for some of you, obviously, if you're leaving a job, it might have been a job that you've been at for a while, and you're just realizing that your room for growth isn't at quite where you'd want it to be. And like I said, maybe this new offer might be that thing that would take you over that the hump. Because let's say there, since we have the Nine of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, right, then okay, the next step would be the Ten of Pentacles, right? So you could just be feeling like, okay, yes, this is good and all, but you have higher goals and aspirations, right? If your ultimate goal is to be the Empress, then that could just be saying that the challenge or obstacle, quote unquote, with the Six of Swords would be that you have to move on to, another job in order to get that increase. So, okay, you have the Nine, right? Someone offers you the 10th Pentacle. So that could be how it's working out there. So it could just be letting them know at the old job, hey, I'm sorry, guys, but, I came to the realization that I'm not really going to get where I ultimately want to go with this job. And, just telling them that, all right, I've put in a lot of time here. I do appreciate it, so on and so forth, but I just need to, really take this next step. For others of you, if you are letting the other person know about your pregnancy, looks like, they can I mean, it's almost self-explanatory, right? With the body language there, they don't look overly eager, but again, like I said, it could just be realizations for them as well that it's going to be a big shift. Like, okay, well now, I'm really going to have to go about my business in a different way, right? So that could be how it's playing out for some of you. All right, now let's take a look at the oracle cards, see what they add to the mix. Okay, so first we have Observer. There's the artwork for it, and the number is 49. Okay, it says perspective, objectivity, neutral observation from a distance. The oracle's message. Most people see the world through a personal lens. They closely identify with their feelings and experiences, so much so that they come to believe that these are the only reality. There are times when you need distance in order to gain perspective and understand your circumstances from a more neutral vantage point. Now is one of those times in your life. This is a perfect moment for you to begin to do some exploring. Instead of only considering yourself, consider what you need to understand about the conditions, people, culture, and environment you're engaged with now. You'd be so happy you did. Illumination is the miracle you seek and will indeed find. So that's interesting there too, because maybe that's what the High Priestess and Lover's energy is talking about. Saying that maybe you go inward and kind of look at things and just get in touch with your intuition a bit more. And maybe that's going to be because of all the 12th house energy you have as these transits move through Scorpio. And then maybe that could help you see, both sides of a situation, right, with the Lover's energy there. And maybe that helps improve your relationships too, not just romantic, obviously, all relationships. All right, the relationship message says sometimes you just can't see the forest for the trees in your way. Feelings can get all jumbled up, and often you hear one thing when a person says another. It can be like an echo of an unresolved past experience dubbed over your conversation. Take time out before you react. It's likely the other person has no idea how his or her words have affected you. Take a few steps back and lend understanding to the situation. Have faith in your connection and trust that you can come together. Take to higher ground now and cultivate curiosity about what you observe in yourself, in others, and in the landscape. You will find things much improved sooner than you know. So that's an interesting thing there too, because for those of you who this did resonate, we're on more of a relationship level. One way it could be playing out, for example, is maybe you do let the person know, right, that, hey, I'm pregnant, and their first reaction, because it catches them off guard with the tower and the foundation, right, they might say something almost insensitive, like, oh, well, now I can't go out partying as much as something, you know what I mean, like just, they just blurt it out of their mouth, right? Maybe that's what the Knight of Swords is, that they just give you that initial reaction, and it might sound like really selfish and inconsiderate, but, you know, it might not have been what they really meant by it. You know what I mean? It could have just been the first random thought that came to their mind, and then maybe after they think about it for a while, like, wow, that was really dumb. And maybe that's even them with the Page of Swords energy. You let them know, and they say something really dumb, and then they come back in like, hey, sorry about that, with the Knight of Swords energy to kind of fix it. So that could be one possible way that plays out. All right, the prosperity message says, it is an advantageous time for you to get some distance from what you're doing and see your work and your projects from a different perspective. The trick is to connect to the essence of your goals and aspirations while letting the form and timing be dictated by spirit. You may be too personally attached to an outcome and unable to see the miracle because it's not turning out exactly as you planned. Trust spirit. The perfect version of your abundance is right in front of you. Remain neutral and curious and watch the miracle unfold. So, interestingly enough, there, what that makes me think of with the Empress energy here, and then, like we said, we have the Nine of Swords, which is almost a minor arcana version of that, at the bottom of the deck. This Six of Swords could just be saying, if you feel like, let's say you're trying to get a creative project off the ground and you've hit like writer's block, let's say, right? You can't come up with new ideas, you're feeling stuck. This could just be saying, maybe take some time away from the job, right? Instead of just banging your head against the wall, take a small trip or something, change your environment up for a while, and maybe that'll give you that idea for that next pinnacle, right? Okay, this is how I could grow the business or whatever, something along those lines. All right, and then the next oracle card we have is Scarab Beetle Spirit, and this is actually from the Spirit Animal Oracle deck. It says magic works through you. There's the artwork, and the number is 52. Okay. It says, in ancient Egypt, the scarab beetle was revered for the creative magic of scarab beetle spirit reminds us that we can bring forth something extraordinary seemingly out of thin air. Whenever you let your creativity flow through you, scarab beetle spirit reminds you that spirit has given you the gift of infinite potential. You have an ally as you fashion something new or repurpose the old, for spirit co-creates with you, channeling energy through you so that you feel replenished and vitalized as you make magic with what is at hand. Now is a time for great optimism, for you can accomplish anything you desire, and your creative endeavors will come to fruition. Miracles, opportunities, abundance, and love will appear seemingly out of nowhere, as you allow spirit to work through you and magically manifest what you need. So what's interesting to me there is how it said seemingly out of thin air, and that almost makes me think of the Ace of Pentacles energy we see here in the present, right? Which, looks like hands coming out of the air with a pentacle. So that could be what that's pointing to there, a little bit of manifestation energy, Okay, and the last thing we have is a mudra card. So this is the mudra that you guys got. And it's the Sahasrara mudra. And the keyword for it is interconnectedness. Okay, let me just hold this up so you could see the info on it. Alright, and not everything's going to fit in the frame there, so I will move it up. So if you guys wanted to pause it or take a screenshot, you can. Now move it up so you could see the rest of what it says. Quite a bit of info there, but it looks like it'd be good for concentration, helps with self-healing power, calms the spirit. So this is definitely something that makes me think of the High Priestess energy as well. And like I said, you're going to have some transits moving through your 12th house, so that would be a good time to go with that as well. So if that sounds like something you think would be beneficial for you, I will put the name of that in the description if you wanted to look into it a little bit further. We'll wrap up there, and I'll see you guys next month. All right, bye.